What is a ZIM loop? Well, we've seen a for loop and a while loop. Let's see what ZIM can do with the loop. Here's a for loop, just to remind us. For var I equals 0. Keep on looping as long as I is less than 10, and increase our I each time. And then in here we can zog I. Now that's okay, it's very efficient, but it's a little bit niggly in here, like a slightly different seeming format. Let's comment this out and see a ZIM loop. That would look like zim.loop, and we say loop up to 10 and call this function each time. Sound familiar? That's what we do with an event, for instance. For some event, call this function. That's what we do in things like intervals, set timeouts, ZIM animate, ZIM move, have callback functions like this. And in the callback function, we receive the iterator I. So we can then zog that, zog I, like so. We also receive a total here, total if we need it. So let's take a look in a browser. We open up a browser and F12, 0 to 9. Yay, that's a ZIM loop. Now it doesn't end there. We can also loop through an array. Var array is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for instance. And now we can loop through the array, like so. We do receive the iterator, but the first thing we'll want from the array is really its value, comma. So now we can get the value. And we don't need the iterator necessarily. You also get a total, and the array itself gets passed in to the parameters here. But it could just be like this, where we're going to zog the value of what's inside the array. So we save that and come back to the browser, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, each element from the array. Same with an object, obj. Get rid of the array and make an object. Age colon 7, score colon 1000. Go, 7-year-old, go. There's an object, so we now can loop through the object. And this time we get the property and the value. And we get the iterator, and we get the total, and we get the object. Gets passed in as well if we need them. Property and value here, prop, comma, value here, and let's see if we loop through this object. We refresh here. Age 7, score 1000. Cool, huh? So we have the same format, sort of, I find it simplified. The same format to handle looping through a number, looping through an array, and looping through an object. And believe it or not, ZIM Loop was made to do one more thing. It was made specifically to loop through a container, because when we loop through a container in ZIM, we can now put the container here, like that, and then we receive in here the child. And that's nice. And we can do things with the child. We'll see that in a ZIM capture, where we're dealing more with ZIM. Here in what is series, we're dealing more with just coding in general. All right, now one more thing about the ZIM loop. In a for loop, we have continue and break. So how do we do that? Let's make zim.loop, and we're going to loop to 10, and we're going to call this function each time. We'll collect the I in there, and we will zog the I. See, that to me, that's a no-brainer. What I just did there, no-brainer. What I did here, I have to use a mnemonics almost as I build this thing, and I know that that's been difficult for people to handle that. So what if we want a continue? So if I is double equal to 5, then continue. That's how you would do it in a for loop, but we're not in a for loop, we're inside a function. So what we really want here is return, just like that. We no longer want to do what's in the rest of the function. So that's nothing new. We could do stuff up here, but if I is 5, we're not going to do anything after this. It would then continue on and do 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's check this out. In other words, we should be zogging all the numbers except for 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So return here acts like a continue. Now how do we break? How do we get right out of this loop? Well, to get right out of the loop, we return something. We could even return false, for instance. What happens here is when we return something, that tells ZIM Loop that, hey, we're done. Not only that, but ZIM Loop will itself return whatever is returned here. So we can collect that. Var answer is equal to whatever we're returning inside of here. So that will be false. Isn't that neat? So let's see that. We refresh here. And 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, great. It did break. So that breaks. If I is 5, it breaks and doesn't do any more numbers. But we forgot to say zog answer there. So let's see what the answer is. False is the answer that our loop is returning. We could return true. And true is now the answer. We could return 55 and save that. And 55 is now the answer. So that could be handy. So there we have a way to break. We just return something, and we can actually use that something in the answer that's coming from our loop. Great. So we can loop through a number, we can loop through an array, we can loop through an object, and we can loop through a container, which we'll see later. We can continue by just using return. We can break by returning some value. That is a ZIM loop, and I am Inventor Dan Zen here at ZimJS.com. Have a great day.